Hello. Welcome to another video. My name is Gemma and today we're going to talk about the ridiculous number of books that I have bought over the summer. Yeah, the stack's really tall and it's here. And it's like nearly as big as my tripod. But, am I sorry? No, not really. And yeah, it does make me feel a bit accountable looking at the number of books because none of these were gifts. I bought them all for myself. But you know what? Sod it. You've got to get your joy where you can, haven't you? So I'm going to run through these. I'm going to have to talk through them relatively quickly because there are so many. And obviously going forwards, I will try to do my hauls a little bit more regularly so it's not quite so intimidating, both to me and to you. But because of when I started BookTube, I hadn't really thought about this, so I didn't record when I got books. And so yeah, so these are all the ones that I think I've bought, well, that I know that I've bought relatively recently. So let's just crack straight on, shall we? So the first book I have to talk to you about is At the Mountain of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. So this is a tiny little book and I just love these like Penguin classic, like Penguin English Library editions. I don't have any, but I see them on everyone's shelves and I wanted one, so I bought myself one. And this, I don't really know too much about it apart from it's a sort of a horror novella, and I am expecting that it's going to be one of those where you can sort of see more modern horror tropes where they've come from within this, which is what I found when I read Brave New World. You could see so many sort of dystopian tropes that are in modern literature now that had come from that book, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, so I'm hoping to pick this one up next month for spooky season because it's quite small and it's a horror, so it's ideal for that, but we shall see. The next book that I wanted to talk to you about was The Donor by Claire Mackintosh. I have read several books by Claire Mackintosh. In particular, I read last year After the End, which I gave 5 stars. It was one of my best reads of the year. I think I've already mentioned it in another video. And I saw this one and it was £1. You can probably see in there, £1. Because it was part of World Book Day or something. So it was £1. I bought it. It's called The Donor, and briefly, I think it's about a young girl who gets a heart transplant, and then, is it a heart transplant? And then the donor's mother just like rocks up and it all gets a bit weird. So I think it's a bit thrillery. But again, it's a super short book. So keen to see what that one's like. Oh, me stacks are wobbling. The next one I picked up was The Blinding Knife by Brent. Not quite such a tiddler, this one. This is a bigger one. And this is the second in the Lightbringer series. So I read Black Prism in August. You can see the wrap up for that, which I did recently. And I instantly, before I'd even finished the book, bought the next one. So I really want to pick this up quite soon because I loved the Black Prism so much. And I want to get to this soon, but you know what it's like, the chunky ones tend to get left to the end. But yeah, excited to pick this one up. Next up, we have The Mercies by Kiran, Millwood, Hargrave. Now, I saw this recommended on Simon's channel at Savage Reads, and it sounds fantastic. The cover is stunning, and loosely this follows an island where all the men get wiped out in some storm and the women are left to run the island effectively. And then I think one day a man arrives and it all gets a bit sinister. So that sounds really interesting. I quite like sort of like feministy books, which I'm hoping this is going to be. So picked that one up. The next one I'm going to talk to you about is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. So this is a pretty famous book. I literally know nothing about it, except I assume that it's about someone interviewing a vampire from my excellent skills of deduction. And this is actually part of a series. I believe there's 13 in this series. But the first one's nice and short, so I thought, let's give it a go. I've never read any Anne Rice before, so yeah, we'll see. Again, this could be a nice one for spooky season. We'll see. We'll see. These are in no particular order, by the way, because just getting them off my shelves was enough of a trauma without having to actually organise them as well. So the next one was a charity shop find, and that is The Number One Ladies Detective Agency by Alexander McCall Smith. I love the cover, and this is quite a big series. I think there's quite a few of them. There's certainly a few listed in the front there, all with this same style of cover, which I think are lovely. I paid £1.75, so a bargain. And I think this is sort of a cosy mystery thriller type, not mystery thriller, like murder mystery type of book, akin to sort of Agatha Christie style of book. So yeah, keen to pick that one up soon. Yeah, it's got a lovely crocodile on the front with a watch. Intriguing. Next is one that I have talked about before. I talked about it in my translated fiction on my TBR list, and that is the Travelling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. And this one is told from the perspective of the cat, and I'm guessing he has a travelling adventure. Now, when I talked about this one before, I had loads of people comment, well, not loads, because I'm like the smallest booktuber on the planet, but I had people comment saying that this is really good and really like heartbreaking. So yeah, I really want to get to this one quite soon, but then I'm kind of like, should I save it for Women in Translation next month? Next year. So, but yeah, very keen to get to this one too. And it has French flaps, which is always a bonus. Okay, the next book I purchased was They're There by Tommy Orange. So Tommy Orange is an Indigenous author. So one thing that I'm trying to do generally in my reading is pick up more diverse literature. I haven't read a whole lot of literature from Indigenous authors or Native American authors, and this one has had rave reviews. I, again, don't know a whole lot about it, but I think they have, what's it called? The Big Oakland Powwow. They have this big event. Loads of people turn up. They've all got their own motivations, but someone turns up with some sinister motivations, and the story goes from there. So very keen to pick this one up quite soon, because as I say, it's had great reviews, and there is a blurb from Margaret Atwood on the front saying astonishing. So yeah, we shall give that one a go in due course. Next up is one that I think I saw recommended on Alice's channel, from the Book Castle. I think it's called the Book Castle, and that is Burial Rites by Hannah Kent. And this is historical fiction, and in a nutshell, I believe it is set in Iceland, and it follows the last trial and execution of a woman who murdered her lover. So it sounds really interesting. The cover is intriguing. I haven't read anything set in Iceland before, I don't think, but it's absolutely a country I am desperate to travel to. Maybe once we get out of lockdown, me and my husband can go for a nice little trip to Reykjavik, you never know. And yeah, so I have also picked up this one. Another translated book that I've talked about before is Isabel Allende's Daughter of Fortune. This was another charity shop buy, so £1.75, bargain, highly recommend you look in charity shops. And this one, I think, follows a young orphaned girl who gets sort of taken in and then sort of revolts against her adoptive parents or foster parents or something along those lines. It's set in Chile. Again, a lot of people, this is sort of more of a modern classic these days, I think. And Isabel Allende is absolutely an author I'm desperate to read, because there's several of her books that I've thought sound quite interesting, but I want to kind of read one before I go and pick up like her whole back catalogue. So yeah, got that one. Next is another book she made me do it, and this is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula LeGuin. Another charity shop find. I found this one at the cutest little charity shop in Camden in London. It's super cute. I did put some pictures on my Instagram, so I'll try and pop one up. But I literally know nothing about this apart from it's sci-fi. Ursula K. Le Guin is a very well-loved author in the genre, and lots of people suggest that this is a good place to start with her. The other one that's on my radar is the Wizards of Earthsea, which I'm quite keen to pick up, though I know that Ashley from A Frolic through put your teeth back in, Gemma, through fiction, and Becca in the books and a few others did a read along of the Wizard of Earthsea and didn't get on with it. So not that would necessarily put me off, but if you have read it and you have some thoughts, drop it below. But this is the one I'm going to start with, The Left Hand of Darkness. Sticking with the sci-fi theme, though a little more loosely now, is Octavia E. Butler's Kindred. So this is a time travel one. I think probably everybody's heard about this book. But it follows a woman who I believe gets transported back to like pre-Civil War America, and she has to sort of save a slave master or something along those lines, or she has to save one of the slaves. I'm not quite sure, but the concept sounds interesting, and everybody who's read this has loved it that I've seen do a review of it. So yeah, very keen to pick this up. And she has several other books, again a bit like Isabel Allende. She's an author that I think I'm going to love, but I kind of need to read one before I go and buy a load of her stuff. So yeah, sorry, wrong one at the front. Kindred by Octavia E. Butler got added to the cart. Another one that I picked up from a different charity shop in Camden was Brideshead Revisited by Evelyn, Waugh. This is a classic. I think everybody's probably heard of it. I actually know nothing about it. I think it's supposed to be comical. Don't know. But I am trying to read more classics. If you watch my TBR game, you'll know that one of the corresponding prompts to numbers, go check it out if you have no idea what I'm talking about, is to read classics. So this one is now on my shelf and could be picked up if that comes up in my TBR game. Sticking with classics this time, we have Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. So this is, again, a very famous book. I really want to try and read some Russian literature. It's probably going to be next year now, realistically, seeing as we are like in September, and yeah. But I have several on my TBR. This is one of them. This, I think in a nutshell, follows a young girl who is groomed by her teacher, and they have a relationship. So yeah, intrigued. I also have on my Kindle My Dark Vanessa, which I think is almost a modern retelling of Lolita, but I'd quite like to read this one first before I read that. So yeah, pick that up. I also really like these covers with the greedy bits on. So yeah. Next up, we're moving into the realms of historical fiction, and we have Six Tudor Queens, Kathryn Howard, The Tainted Queen by Alison Weir. So I am a big Philippa Gregory fan. I've read several of her sort of Tudor series, 6 or 7 of them now, I think. But I haven't read one on Kathryn Howard. And I know Alison Weir is very similar to Philippa Gregory in sort of style and content. So I kind of wanted to pick this up and see what I thought of it compared to Philippa Gregory. But I don't really want to read the same stories again. So yeah, so I picked this one up. So I mean, on the side it says number 5, but let's be honest, you can probably read them in whatever order, or well, I'm going to. So so yeah, picked that one up. And I think, I know it's naughty, but I think I picked that one up in Tesco's. So yeah, I was obviously having a stressful shopping day with the kids. Another charity shop by here, and we have Wilbur Smith's Warlock. I am really keen to read some Wilbur Smith. I have not read anything by him. I'm particularly interested in this sort of African Egyptian kind of stuff that he has done. So yeah, so I picked this one up because it was in a charity shop, so I thought it would be a good place to start, and then if I like it again I could pick up more by the author. But this is a big chunky boy, very small compact text, so it's going to take a while. Let's see how many pages it is, shall we? 691. So yeah, a big boy, but I think it's going to be really good. And I mean, I say it's a big boy and oh, it's quite intimidating, and it is, but I do tend to prefer longer books because I just feel more connected to the characters. So though I whinge about it, I do like a chunky boy. Next up, Cutting for Stone by Abraham Verghese. So this follows 2 brothers in Ethiopia. A betrayal happens and they are torn apart or forced apart or something along those lines. So this ticks a lot of boxes for me. Firstly, it's set in a country that I know little about. Second, it's got sort of a sibling dynamic, which I really like, and family. And I don't know if you can see, but I'm pretty sure that's a dog on the cover. So, you know, I am a dog person, so hopefully the dog is okay at the end of the book, because otherwise I might not be able to recommend it. Right, this one is very out of my wheelhouse. We have Someone I Used to Know by Paige Toon. I don't really read romance. You'll probably know that if you've seen some of my other videos. But this was part of a book club that I'm a part of. Beth's book club. I'll leave her details below. And this was the August book. But I didn't get around to it. So now it's sat on my shelf. I don't really know what it's about. Like 2 people who were together and then someone else, and then years later they all come back to the same town or something like that. So we shall see. It's not usually my sort of thing. I'm going to caveat it right away before I've even had a chance to pick it up, because I know that Paige Toon is beloved by a lot of people, but I'm not sure it's going to be for me. But I picked it up for book club and never got around to it. And last, we have Breathing Lessons by Anne Tyler. This was another charity shop find. Anne Tyler had a book out last year, Redhead on the Side of the Road or something along those lines, which was nominated for the Booker, maybe, or maybe the Women's Prize for Fiction. I didn't see great reviews for that book, but I saw a lot of people saying that they really liked Anne Tyler's writing style and her previous stuff. So I thought, well, why not pick up this one and see what it's like. So this one takes place over the course of one day. I quite like that as a trope. And it's about husband and wife who are driving sort of across the country to attend a funeral, and they have detours on the way where they stop off to see friends and people from their past, and it's about their marriage, basically, about how they connect as a couple, and yeah, and the reality of marriage and having children and all the rest of it. I think the couple are in their 50s or ish, something like that, so their kids are sort of like grown up, and yeah, it's about the realities of marriage, which I find quite interesting, especially when it is told from a realistic perspective. I mean, I've only been married 4 years, but me and my husband have been together for 13 years, 14 years. So, you know, the reality is it's not all this sort of like chocolate box romance and sweeping you off your feet stuff that you read in books. So I quite like it when it's that sort of perspective. Sorry, went off on a tangent. So those are all the books that I bought over the summer. As I said, as I buy them going forwards, I'm going to try and like keep a log and not have quite so many. But yeah, there was this pile and there was this pile. So yeah, sorry, I should probably show you this side rather than the other side. But yeah, but those are all the books I bought. And it's been a pleasure. It's really hot today, random heat wave in the UK. So after all of that, I feel a bit sweaty and gross. So on that joyous note, I'm going to leave you to it, and I will catch you in the next one. Okay, cheers guys, bye.